Batman, I love it. So yeah, hello. When we usually think about our source code, we think about a script, don't we? A script like when playing theater. A script that tells us what to do when. And this metaphor is not bad. However, it is quite control flow centric. And the thing is, when we want to succeed with signals, which also means we want to succeed with reactive programming, we need to switch our thinking a bit. We need to think about our application a bit more as of a marble run. A marble run where several marbles are going through. Those marbles is our state, our data. And sometimes a marble can be split into several marbles, and sometimes several marbles are combined to one marble. For this, we are usually going with computed and the resource API. And what comes out here at the end is somehow presented to the user, because otherwise we would not need it. And usually, we do this via data binding. So this entire flow ends up in the template using data binding. There are some exceptions to this, and I will show you one exception in some minutes, but usually it's data binding. And switching over to this perspective is really, really important, because here is the story. When I started with signals, I thought, oh, they are so cute, objects with getters and setters, I can do this. But if you only see them as objects with getters and setters, without switching your thinking, you will swim across the stream, you know, and that means you will run into a lot of pitfalls. And that's why this entire metaphor and this entire talk is that important for me. So when we go with this view here, we have more of a data flow-centric perspective. And now the big question is how to switch over to this data flow-centric perspective, or to restate it, how to switch to reactive thinking. If you already used RxJS heavily, then this is something you might already know. But if you just used RxJS here or there as a promise replacement, then this is a big switch for you. So in order to answer this question, I have prepared three things. The first thing is about the signal graph. The signal graph is the technical representation of this marble run, the technical representation inside of Angular. Then I show you a demo application, and then using this demo application with all its data flows, we will discuss the signal graph again. Before we start, let me introduce myself. I'm Manfred. I'm a trainer and consultant for Angular, and I'm focusing on Angular in the enterprise. In this role, I and my colleagues are helping a lot of companies out there. We are doing trainings, we are doing consulting, we are doing reviews. Besides this, I'm also quite connected to the Angular community. I live in Austria. I do a lot of stuff in Germany. And I'm always happy to work together with people around the globe, in the rest of Europe or here in the US. Okay, so let's get started with the signal graph. And for this, first of all, I have a very simple example to get us in the right mood, and then I have a more complex one. So the simple example is quite a tasty one. It's about cakes. Here we have several cakes in a signal. And there is another signal pointing to the selected cake, to the index of the selected cake, which is here index position 2, ice cream pancake. Then I have a computed signal, where I'm computing out the selected cake from the array. You know, when going with computed, the result will every time be up to date. Every time, at least when someone is watching, it will be up to date, so it's lazily computed. And then I can send this selected cake to the backend using an httpResource. Here I have a helper function that is setting up my httpResource. It sends over the ID, and I'm getting back further data. Usually, I really set up my resource inside of a method or inside of a function, because I don't want to see all the protocol details here when it's all about the data flow. And then this resource gives us a value, or if we had bad luck, an error. So if we come back to the marble run, you could think about this as of having a red marble and a pink marble going into the computed. And what you're getting out is the blue marble that goes into the resource. And what you get out is the green marble, the turkey marble, or the black marble with the details or the error. And the thing is, this marble run is for real. Meanwhile, we can visualize it with a preview version of the Angular DevTools in your browser. If you look in there, you see that you have here signals, you see for cakes, for selected, the index, we are computing out the name of our cake, and then we have something like unnamed. Well, unnamed is a part of your resource. Currently, I mean, it's experimental. The resource is not supported in there. That's why instead of the resource, we see the inner working of the resource. The resource consists of several here unnamed signals. But this is towards the direction we are going. So now let's move over to a bit more complex example with real complex data flows. And this example is about Super Mario. And it turns out that this year, Super Mario had its 40th anniversary. How cool is that? 40 years of Super Mario. I played it some times ago, and somehow I still remembered where the hidden items are and where the pipes are. I can go down to the bonus level, so it's really ridiculous. Who played Super Mario, the original one? Awesome, awesome. So let's have a look into a demonstration for this. Let's start it up. And here we have Super Mario, or ng-Mario as I call it. So we can look at several levels, and we can also switch between them. And I'm not sure if you knew this, but each and every level has a theme assigned. The original Super Mario game had 4 themes, and originally each level had a theme, but here you can switch freely between those themes, between underground and underwater and castle. So usually underground is the theme of this level, and the first level has overworld, I guess, which looks like this. And then we can play it. So implementing this was a lot of fun. Yeah, so a lot of fun. And yeah, this is what I implemented to show the data flows. So let's have a look at the implementation there. The first thing I needed was the right tiles, and for this come on, maximize yourself. For this I have borrowed and tiles map from the internet. You see all the tiles there my levels consists of, like the floor and the brick, and somewhere is a question mark and a coin. And something that is also funny here, in order to switch between the themes, all we need to do is calculate an offset between this floor tile and that floor tile, or an offset between here and there, and suddenly we are in the different theme. So this is quite nice, this is quite funny. Besides this, we also have a tiles map for the heroes. Here we have Super Mario in several frames, running frames, jumping frames, and so on. And what I added on the top is a level description file. And this was the most fun. So my son was watching me doing this example, and he was as excited as me, even though he does not implement code so far. He is still 9-year-old, so he is not into this, but he liked this. What we have here is just a JSON file telling us where we display which tile. We see that we have the floor tile at those coordinates, and we repeat them 55 times from left to right. So if we look here 55 times from left to right, we have here the cloud and another cloud, a question mark, a brick, all the stuff we see here in the level. So in theory, you could implement your own level editor to get your very own ng-Mario levels. This was a lot of fun. But this is not the end of the story. Of course, when we as developers see something like this, a tiles map in a format we can modify, what is the first time we are trying to do? We try to modify it, don't we? So at this point, I found out that the Angular team is looking into finding some mascots. And here we have a candidate for a mascot, the helmet guy. So what I was trying to do was implementing an 8-bit version of this helmet guy. And it's now in there in a different tiles map. So let's try to switch it out. And here we go, 8-bit helmet guy. Yeah, and here we have the Angular sign. So yeah, this was the most fun of doing all of this. Thank you, thank you. Okay, so now let's come back to the reactive graph of this game, because this game is really complex enough to discuss the reactive graph a bit better. So what we have in there in this reactive graph are several signals. Those signals are representing our state. Everything we want to display to the user. For instance, we have a style signal telling us about the selected theme. You remember overworld, underground, and so on. We have a play signal with a boolean telling us whether we are in play mode or whether we are just displaying a level. We have the level key with the level we have selected, level 1, level 2, and so on. And then there is a canvas, which is also a signal-based view child where we try to draw all the animations and levels on. So this is everything the user sees. And then those points are connected with resources. I have a tiles map resource loading this entire tiles map. I have a hero map resource loading the map with all the hero items, Super Mario running, jumping, standing, stuff like this. And I have my level resource loading those level description files. And here we have a first connection. The level key, the selected level, 1, 2, 3, goes in there. And every time this level key is changing, the level resource will load another level description file. But it goes on. Here I have a tiles resource. The tiles resource is cutting out all the small tiles of the huge tile map in the theme I need. So for this, it's taking the result of the tiles map, it's taking the style, and it will project this to my tiles I want to display. This is also a resource because, you know, cutting out pictures of a larger picture is highly asynchronous in the browser. It works with promises, so I need some kind of resource in there. I'm doing the same with the hero himself, and then I have also a level overview resource that is just loading the names of the levels. And then everything comes together. Then what we need here is not data binding, but in this very case, an effect, a render effect that takes all of this stuff. And every time one of those pieces are changing, the render effect will re-render my application. It will tell the game engine to start the level or to just display this level in this theme. So as mentioned before, usually you go with data binding here. But there are some cases where data binding does not work. Cases where you need to draw on a canvas, for instance. And this is where the effect comes in. So even though you should not use effects that often, this is really an ideal, typical example for an effect. So now let's have a look into the source code. So here in the source code, I'm grabbing my canvas via viewChild. I have a signal that is representing the selected level, 1, 2, 3, and so on. I have another signal that is representing the style, the theme, and whether I am in play mode or not. So everything we see here in terms of signals is also somehow shown there, this drop-down field, that drop-down field, the play game, the canvas. So there I have here my method that is loading the tiles map, this huge tiles map. And this method is delegating to an HTTP resource. If we look in there, it's just calling HTTP resource, and here .blob. Usually you don't call .blob because most of the times you just load a bunch of JSON. However, here I want to get the blob of my tiles map in order to play around with it, to cut out pictures and so on. So what do we have else? Here I have another helper function that gets the tiles map resource, the entire tiles map, the selected style, the theme, both goes in as marbles, both flows in, and what we are getting back is the tiles resource with all the single tiles. I'm doing the same with the hero map resource and the hero resources, the frames of the hero, and then I have here my level overview resource that is just telling me you have a level 1 with this name, a level 2 with that name, and then it goes on with loading the level description file, this JSON file, you know. The key goes in, and every time the key is changing, I'm getting a new level resource. Then I have two effects. The first one is boring. It is just initializing here my canvas. The second one is a bit more exciting. It is calling the render function. And this render function is taking everything. So this is where everything comes together. All the information from the signals, from the resources. And as this happens in an effect, when one of those guys is changing, the effect will rerun. So this is what an effect is doing, isn't it? And then I'm checking whether we are in play mode, and I tell my game engine, hey, start the game. Or when we are not in play mode, I'm telling my game engine that we just want to render the level. And that's it. So we have a beautiful graph here, a beautiful signal graph. And when we start thinking in terms of this, going with signals is really a piece of cake. So if you like all those ideas, you might also like my free ebook. You can download it here. It's meanwhile in the second edition, and you find a lot of information and details about signals, resources, and so on in there. So let me come to a conclusion. What did we see today? Well, we saw that we really need to think in terms of data flows. We need to think reactively in order to succeed. Otherwise, we will run into sharp knives all the times, into traps all the times. Trust me, I did it, so I know what I'm speaking about. To build the reactive graph, we can use built-in stuff in Angular, like compute that or resource API and so on. Basically, we are projecting current values to new values, like in Excel, where two cells are going into a formula of another cell. And I've also shown this. Usually, you want to hide details of creating your resources in services or functions because you don't want to mess up your data flow. You don't want to pollute your data flow. You want to have a clean data flow, and all the protocol details and framework details should be hidden away. And last but not least, please remember this. Think about your application as of a marble run where several marbles go through. So that's it. Here you find my contact data. I've already uploaded my examples, Super Mario, my slides. So feel free to check it out and follow me on social media to stay in contact. Thank you.